become fate. She was just going for a walk like she always did. But this time, she didn't come back. There are unwritten rules that many women follow: never go home alone, always go together, especially at night. But what about the day? In the middle of the day, in a small, peaceful town, who would think that danger would lurk? Vanessa Marcotte, a talented 27-year-old girl, graduated with honors from Boston University, working at Google, certainly didn't think so when she left her mother's house for a run on the afternoon of August 7, 2016. It was a beautiful, sunny Sunday, as normal as any other day, but just a few hours later, her partially burned body was found in the woods, only 800 meters from her mother's house. No clothes. Signs of being beaten, strangled, and resisting to the end. The attacker tried to cover up all traces, but not enough to stay hidden forever. This is the true story of a case that shocked the whole country, and it took nearly 6 years for justice to be served. Vanessa Marcotte was born on June 17, 1989, the only daughter of John and Rosanna. She grew up in Princeton, Massachusetts, a small town of just over 3,000 people, where everyone knew each other. Vanessa was active, loved sports, loved nature, and always lived life to the fullest. Although her parents divorced when she was young, Vanessa still maintained a good relationship with both of them. She was a good student, responsible, and a spiritual support for the whole family. After graduating from Boston University with a degree in communications with excellent grades, she quickly got jobs at big companies like Vistaprint, WordStream, and finally achieved her dream, working at Google, New York headquarters, as an account manager. It was her dream job. But Vanessa never forgot her roots. Despite her busy schedule, she still visited her mother and aunt every 6 months. The summer of 2016 was no exception. On Sunday morning, August 7, 2016, Vanessa woke up at her mother's house on Brook Station Road, Princeton. She planned to catch the bus back to New York in the afternoon to make it to work for the new week. But first, she wanted to go for a run, as she always did when she visited home. Vanessa left home in the early afternoon. Wearing her gym clothes, headphones, and carrying her phone, she ran down the familiar trail, near the woods next to the road. No one knows what happened next. But by late afternoon, as the sky was getting dark, Vanessa still hadn't returned. Her mother, Rosanna, began to worry. No one answered her phone calls. No one answered her messages. This was unusual. Vanessa was always punctual, always responsible, never missed a bus or missed an appointment. When it got dark, Rosanna couldn't wait any longer. She called the police and reported her daughter missing. The authorities were immediately mobilized: police, sniffer dogs, dozens of volunteers. They waded through the forest, combed through every bush, followed every small footprint. The deeper the forest went, the denser the trees became, and visibility was greatly reduced. But they did not give up. At about 8:20 p.m., a sniffer dog picked up a strange scent near a bush less than half a mile from Vanessa's house. And then, they found her body. Vanessa was lying on the ground. No clothes. A half-burned shoe was thrown nearby. Her body had been burned with gasoline, with burns on her chest, arms, legs, and face. There were strangulation marks on her neck, and most importantly, Vanessa had the killer's DNA under her fingernails. She fought back until the end. From the beginning, the police knew this was no accident. The attacker had deliberately burned the body to destroy the evidence. But that didn't work. The body showed clear signs of assault, rape, and manual strangulation. The phone, clothes, headphones, all gone. The scene was too quiet, there was no trace of a second person. Only signs of struggle, scratches, and the smell of gasoline on the ground. Forensic experts confirmed Vanessa was killed between 1 o'clock and 3 p.m., just minutes after she left her mother's house. It was the quietest time of day, and the wooded area where the body was found was extremely remote, only known to locals or those very familiar with the area. Princeton used to be a safe town. Serious crime was almost non-existent. But after the incident, the atmosphere changed completely. Windows were closed. Women were afraid to go out. Parents were holding their children's hands. Fear was in every eye. For days later, the Worcester District Attorney's Office held a press conference. They confirmed this was a deliberate murder, and the perpetrator was still at large. Based on the evidence and DNA collected, they believed the perpetrator was a man in his 20s or 30s, with injuries to his face or hands, likely from Vanessa's scratching during the fight. A hotline was set up. In the days that followed, police received more than 1,300 tips, leads, and descriptions. One witness said he saw a dark-colored car following Vanessa as she jogged down the street. That car was the key to everything. But at the time, no one knew who was behind the wheel. He burned the body, he got rid of the evidence, he erased all traces. But there was one thing he couldn't erase: the DNA under Vanessa's fingernails. As soon as Vanessa's body was found, investigators knew they were dealing with someone extremely dangerous, premeditated, calculating, and likely to strike again if they weren't caught in time. He didn't just kill. He raped, beat, strangled, and then doused the body with gasoline and burned it to cover up the evidence. A brutal crime, in broad daylight, less than a kilometer from the victim's home. But there was one thing he didn't expect: Vanessa fought to the end, and left behind a clue he couldn't erase: DNA under her fingernails. Forensics collected DNA samples from Vanessa's body, from the crime scene, and especially from under her fingernails, where her attacker's skin cells had been left as she tried to scratch and fight back. Investigators sent the samples to a federal criminal database, but they were returned in vain. That meant the killer had no criminal record. The case was deadlocked. Hundreds of testimonies were received. Some said they saw a black car driving slowly behind Vanessa on Hubbardston Street. Others described a man in his 20s, Hispanic, with short hair and a medium build, standing next to the car near where the body was found. Still, there was no concrete evidence to identify him. As the investigation continued, reporters and even police began to notice another case. Karina Vetrano, 30, was murdered in a Queens, New York, park just weeks before Vanessa. The similarities were chilling. Both had been strangled, both had been stripped, both had been burned or left in a brutal state. Both were women, young, jogging alone. The police were forced to ask, was there a serial killer at work? The FBI got involved. Based on behavioral and geographic analysis, they determined that Vanessa's killer must have been very familiar with the Princeton area. He knew the forest roads, knew the deserted spots, knew the rugged areas. He was most likely a local, or worked around the area frequently. 3 months after the crime, a breakthrough came. A witness recalled that afternoon, a black Ford SUV was parked near the woods with the hood open. A Hispanic man was standing next to it, talking on the phone. When he returned a few hours later, the car was still there, but the hood was closed and the driver was gone. The police immediately checked Ford vehicles registered in the area. A patrol officer saw a black SUV matching the description, noted the license plate, and ran it through the system. The result: the car belonged to Angelo Colon-Ortiz, 31, who lived in Worcester, a 30-minute drive from the crime scene. Angelo was a Puerto Rican who had moved to Massachusetts less than a year earlier. He worked for a FedEx-affiliated delivery company. Importantly, his regular delivery area included Princeton, where Vanessa was killed. Neighbors described Angelo as quiet, leering at women, always making people uncomfortable. One female co-worker said he had cursed at her in Spanish that no one understood. Another said, "I had to work with him privately. Thank God I was okay." Although he had no criminal record, his behavior made everyone wary. When the police came to Angelo's home, they brought a translator because he did not speak English. They asked, "Do you know Vanessa Marcotte?" He replied, "No, were you in Princeton on the afternoon of August 7, 2016? He shook his head. "No, the police asked for a DNA sample." And the most surprising thing, Angelo agreed. Voluntary. Signed consent, no lawyer. No resistance. The results? Angelo's DNA matched 100% to the sample taken from Vanessa's fingernails, no doubt about it. He was Vanessa's killer. After arresting Angelo on August 15, 2017, the police began to piece together the timeline. Around 2 p.m., Vanessa was attacked, strangled, raped, scratched by him. Around 2:35 p.m., Angelo was caught on camera filling up with $5 worth of gas at a gas station 10 miles from the scene. He returned to the woods, doused Vanessa with gasoline, and set her on fire to destroy the evidence, the victim's phone, headphones, and clothes all gone. Police believe he sold them, or left them somewhere they would never find them. He had never met Vanessa before. No acquaintance. No grudge, it was simple. He saw a pretty girl jogging alone, and he decided to victimize her. Those legal maneuvers didn't make the charges any less serious, but they were exhausting for Vanessa's family. Every court appearance meant they had to sit through the details of how their daughter was beaten, raped, strangled, and burned. No parent deserves to hear that. Over and over again, for 5 years, as the trial dragged on, Vanessa's father, John Marcotte, became increasingly frail. His health deteriorated due to stress and prolonged mental anguish. He eventually died just 10 days before the verdict was announced. At the trial, Vanessa's mother, Rosanna, said, "He died of a broken heart." Because he couldn't bear to know that his daughter had been murdered like that, and to wait every day for justice. The house where Vanessa grew up is now silent. No laughter, no piano. Only souvenir photos, the sportswear she once wore, and a void that will never be filled. On November 2, 2022, after a plea bargain with the victim's family, Angelo Colon-Ortiz pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and unarmed robbery. The court sentenced him to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 45 years, meaning Angelo could be considered for release in 2067, when he would be 81. Throughout the trial, he did not cry, did not apologize, did not show remorse. His face was cold as ice. Not a word. Not a single gesture of remorse. Some who were present described his eyes as empty, soulless, as if the person had long since left the body. And that was more difficult for Vanessa's family to accept than any sentence. Rosanna, Vanessa's mother, stood in court, her voice trembling but clear. She did not represent just one mother who had lost a child. She spoke for all the women who had been disrespected, who had been harassed, who had been afraid to walk alone. Vanessa was my only daughter. She was the reason I woke up every morning. Now, every morning I wake up as a recurring nightmare. Angelo, you took the light out of my life, you took her future away. And you do not deserve any forgiveness. After her daughter's death, Rosanna did not want this pain to stop at tears. She founded the Vanessa T. Marcotte Foundation, a non-profit organization that aims to teach women self-defense skills, raise awareness about personal safety, fight sexual violence and harassment across the United States. From a small idea, the organization has grown. They hold workshops in schools, businesses, and communities. They work with the police to train them on how to respond quickly in dangerous situations. And they use Vanessa's name as a symbol of awareness. Throughout the investigation, no one understood why Angelo did it. He didn't know Vanessa, had no personal motive, and wasn't mentally ill. He just saw a beautiful young woman jogging alone, and decided to prey on her. No explanation. No apology. No humanity. Many people ask, why? But sometimes, evil has no reason. It just exists, and in just a moment, it can destroy an entire life. The death of Vanessa Marcotte is a wake-up call. It reminds us that women, no matter how strong, capable, careful, can still be victims, even in the places they think are safest. It shows that gender-based violence does not need a reason to happen. It is not just a legal issue, it is a social, cultural, and educational issue. No one should be afraid to walk alone in broad daylight. No one should have their life taken away just because they are a woman. Vanessa Marcotte, 27 years old, had it all: a future, talent, dignity. But a man took it all away in a matter of minutes. Her family lost a child. Society lost a good woman. But what do we learn from this? That the world is not safe. But silence is not an option, that grief can be transformed into action, and action is the best way to honor the dead. She is gone. But the light she left behind will continue to shine for many other women.